Are we there, Jennifer? End stream. It says it's live. So, welcome. My name's Mike Spike Edwards. For those who don't know me, I race motorbikes. I coach people, teach people how to do it and how not to do it sometimes. My co-presenter today is Adam Sheriff. Adam, would you like to sort of say hello and introduce people who you are, what you do?
Hello, Happy New Year. It's my name's Adam Sheriff. I'm a bike racer too. I've been racing for quite a while now. Taught by yourself, as you know. Doing quite well with my championships up to press. So yeah, that's me.
When did we meet, Adam? About 2012, was it?
Yeah, a long time ago, yeah.
You scared the shit out of me on you were racing a CBR 1000, and I think it was at the time, and I couldn't believe how bloody quick you were, and you said, I want to go faster.
Yeah, it worked. Definitely worked, because no sooner had I been with you, plenty of other people went with it as well, so it obviously worked.
It was a bit of a blow, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, well, we've got a couple of people who have pinged us messages to sort of talk about stuff. I mean, we can talk about whatever we want to at the end of the day, because it's just us two blokes having a bit of a laugh at the end of the day. One of the things, while we're talking about racing, because racing is obviously very close to what we both do, and it does pop up quite a lot, to be honest, is rear brake. Do you use it? When do you use it? Why don't you use it? That sort of thing. What's your thoughts on rear brake? Because I know your handlebar arrangement is different, because your thumb brake is the main brake for you, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yeah. But I do use my back brake, mainly at places like Mansfield when I'm going downhill, and just generally to tighten the line a little bit. But obviously I've got to use my foot. I can't use a thumb brake like other people do. My CBRs haven't quite got that power for power wheeling, so I don't need to be controlling it for controlling back brake for that. Right.
So, well, my take on the back brake really is largely due, it really depends on what you're riding, I think. Because I ride quite a lot of different bikes, and two strokes are the main one where I would use the rear brake. Because they have such little engine braking. You know, the majority of the bikes I do ride have a decent amount of engine braking. And if you think about it, if you're braking hard with the front brake, back wheel is going to be light. So the amount of rear brake you can use obviously tapers off a little bit. So a lot of it can be down to weight distribution, I guess. On some of the older classic bikes I ride, like, your Manx Nortons, G50s, all matchlesses, that sort of thing, where the rear of the bike carries an awful lot of weight on the bike, plus the brakes are crap anyway, is you tend to have to use the back brake just to get the damn thing to stop, because the front brake efficiency is nowhere near it is like it is on a modern bike. But then you look at another bike, like when it was doing world endurance in the early days with like a early GSX R1000s and stuff like that, or the classic endurance bikes, which are like GPZ 1100 engines in air-cooled engines in P&M chassis. They carry a lot of weight on the back wheel, and you can start to use the brake there. But because they've got so much engine braking full stop, you have to sometimes use the clutch as well to sort of semi-disengage the amount of engine braking it has. So you almost use the clutch as the brake, because you obviously don't pull it in because you're freewheeling, but using the clutch to kind of like a slipper clutch effectively, because slipper clutch I think have softened a lot of people up. But so it largely depends, I guess, on what you're riding is the answer to that question. I've got a question here from Les Laughlin. Would you pronounce that Laughlin, Jennifer?
Yeah, he wants to know if you're going back to the northwest.
Oh, northwest. Northwest 200. You've never been, have you, Adam?
I've never been to Northwest. I've been to Isle of Man and Cookstown over in Ireland, but never at Northwest, no.
Do you fancy it?
No, I'm shying away from road racing now. My wife definitely won't. She won't even let me go back to Oliver's Mount.
Right. Well, to be fair, I think the Northwest is arguably that's probably one of the safest ones to do. I'd rather race around the Northwest than I would around Scarborough, to be fair.
I think Adam's done Scarborough.
Well, you've done Scarborough,
Yeah,
haven't
I've done a few times, yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you're right there, you'd be all right at the Northwest. I mean, the last time I went there was 96, I think, or 95. No, 95, 96. No, it'd be 95, 96. I brought me back and couldn't go. But will I go back? I don't know. A bit long in the tooth, I think, for that game now. Leave it to the young ones to sort of thrash it out because they're all getting a bit serious.
Anyway, we have a burning question.
Oh,
for
burning
Adam.
question. Adam.
What would life be like at home if you weren't involved in racing?
Oh, that sounds a very targeted question. Did you hear that?
Oh, I did, yeah. Yes. Boring, I'd say.
That was the wrong answer.
No. I love my racing, but I also love the bike prep as well. Tinkering with bikes in garage. It's it's a good hobby of mine. I love it.
Yeah.
We keep busy when we're not racing. These winter months are hard, but
Stop looking at me.
yeah.
I can feel that side of that skin peeling on one side of your face there now. No, but to be fair, I mean, your man cave is very impressive because of the amount of stuff which goes on in there, and I'm totally amazed at what you do with what you've got and what you do, sort of thing. It just blows me away every time. So, and you've got a roller. Is it your dad's roller or your granddad's roller? I can't remember now.
Yeah, it was my dad's roller. He's had it for 40 plus years, I dare say. He's passed away now, and it was going to go to auction to Matthewson's. My brother and my sister wanted to auction it off. I just couldn't let it happen, really. So I says, oh, well, I'll buy it out, kind of thing, and we'll keep it in family. Our Kane's itching to drive it as well, and our Caitlin. So got some work to do on it yet to get it back up the roadworthy, but it's not far off. It still starts and drives.
Well,
So,
make a cracking pair of chauffeurs then too.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Sat him back, you know what I mean, getting chauffeured around.
Yeah, and it'd probably be one of the few vehicles that you own which could potentially become an earning potential.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
tell me,
problems.
well, yeah, that's another story. What are you looking at for 25? What have you got plans there? What's your main aim? Have you still got your FZ and all that?
Still got all bikes. Yeah, we've not sold anything. Don't really know what I want to do. I think I'm just going to stick with CBR and carry on with that class. I think it'll be a lot more competitive next year. Should be a lot better grid. So yeah, I think I'll probably do that. Just stick with my CBR and do that. Not do as many classes, so I'm not as stressed. Because towards the end of the year, when you're doing lots of championships, it does get a bit stressful, and you're not really gaining anything from it. It's just more stress on yourself, really.
Well, it always looked when I wandered past the awning or the garage or whatever you'd got, it looked like you were spinning plates, just trying to keep everything kind of going. And I thought to myself, like, you should be thinning out some of this lot down, really, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll probably not even bother with VFR next year because that class is dying off as well. So I don't know, really. I have got in the back of my mind, like I've said before, about selling some bikes. Favourite bike to ride. I really enjoyed riding that little FZ600. It just, because it's speed at bike, power it had got, it just felt really good. You were really riding wheels off a bike, trying to get everything out of it. Whereas some other bikes, they can still bite you like the CBR did at Anglesey. So
yeah. I used to like racing Nancy, same bike as an FZ600, and it was just sort of basically flat out everywhere because what did they have? 50 horsepower, 52, 3 horsepower, something like that. Not a big lot of horse, and I loved it, and it handled really well. I couldn't believe how well it handled.
Yeah,
I mean, is that Yamaha as a rule? Because almost every Yamaha I've ever raced has handled really well,
Yeah, well, they do seem to, don't they?
Yeah.
But I like my Hondas. I've always liked my Hondas, but never rode a Kawasaki, to be fair. I've got one. I've got one in garage, a 400, but I've never had my leg over it on a track and rode it yet. But I'm curious to ride that little 400.
Well, the 400s, I raced one in briefly in '93. I only did 2 races on it, and it blew up both times. It was very, very quick, but I think it was just a bit of a stressed edit, to be honest. But the handling is quite something else because of they're like the 400s, like your VFR, your FZR 400, all M400. They were like mini race bikes of the time because they're all 30 years old now, but they were, as good as they got. I mean, Yamaha, they did the FZR 400, and then they did an RRSP, which had adjustable suspension on it, and it was like bloody trick bit of kit. So you would be impressed by the handling of it, but it's just, I think that the old bikes now, people are desperate to make them go as quick as they can, and they just start breaking a lot. So I think that would be a bit depressing. It's trying to keep it rolling, as it were, where your current cropper bikes are pretty standard, really, so they can survive as much as anything else. Oh, we got some questions coming in here.
Helen Bennett from Cadwell, the Lady Marshal from Cadwell, wants to know how you both met her.
Well, it was in.
And don't call her an old bird this time, otherwise you're in big trouble, Mike.
No, I was on another level at that point. Helen, where's Helen? Oh yes, Helen. Well, you know Helen from Cadwell Park.
Me, yeah, of course I know Helen. Yeah, I remember meeting her.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it was at Cadwell Park. I mean, she is Cadwell Park for me. She just, when you go there, she's part of the furniture, and yeah, well done, Zoe. Yeah, it's exactly the same. And it just, she's such a lovely woman. Definitely part of the furniture.
Do you remember where you met her?
Where? Oh God, now tell me about it. That's a tough one. There's a bit of water gone under the bridge since then. It was probably in a pub in Louth. I really can't remember. I beg. I'm sorry, Helen. I really can't remember that. But I'm sure you'll grind my gears over it at some point.
Well, I remember where I met her. I think I met her at Charlie's 1 or 2.
Oliver's Mount, and especially when I saw his handlebar set up.
Oh, right.
I asked where the front brake lever was, and he just laughed.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I didn't want to explain.
Yeah, well, did you get that lot?
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah. Well, she said she met you, I think Charlie's 1 or Charlie's 2, and you'd binned it, and she couldn't figure out where the brake lever was, the front brake lever was. So
yeah.
Tell people about why you have the brake lever in a different place.
Well, it's an advantage, obviously. It's sort of top secret. No, I had a bad car crash, obviously, years ago, which left my arm in a position where I couldn't really rotate it properly to get it on the handlebars. As well, I couldn't extend my fingers to pull on the front brake lever. Back then, but obviously not long after we'd had that coaching lesson, and that's when he took me down and got me introduced to
Peter Day,
and he between you got me some fancy handlebars made up so that I didn't have to try and rotate my arm as much and have my elbow up in air. And then obviously I ended up rigging up my left brake on, well, I used to originally use a normal thumb brake, but because the master cylinder is only really small, a 13mm, didn't really pass enough fluid because it's only really designed for dragging a back brake disc, really.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to control 2 front calipers. So one night I was asleep and woke up with this brainwave, and I thought I could have just put a front brake lever on backwards and mount it underneath my left clip on. And I went out in garage straight away and like mocked something up, and I thought this worked perfect. Why have I never thought of it before? Nobody else has used it. So it's really good, yeah. And it was funny with Ellen. I also remember when I fell off, and I'm like, oh no, Zoe will be going, Barmy, can I please borrow your phone so I can ring Zoe? So she lent me a phone so I could call Zoe and let her know I was safe.
Oh, well. Well, the marshals. I mean, let's put our hands together a little bit, really, for the Orange Army, because obviously without them, we wouldn't do what we do at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Any more questions, Jennifer?
One chap says something about brake fade. Can it make you first into the corner?
Brain fade or brake fade? Oh, brake fade. Well, have you ever had brake fade?
No, I've never had brake fade. I've obviously had a mistake once where I'd overfilled my reservoir and my brake stuck on. That was another Charlie's one incident where I'd set off and got round the corner and my brake just slowly locked itself on. But not particularly much brake fade, no.
No, I think that the only time I can consciously think, I've had that where we've overfilled the master cylinder and it's basically hydraulic to brake on, and the more you use it, the less it releases.
Yeah.
But when it comes to brake fade, I think the only time I can really think about it was in '94. We're racing FZR 600s with V&M, FZR 600 Yamahas, and they had to use the standard discs. You couldn't change the discs, and the discs were like, I think they were 4.5 mil thick, really thin discs, and they used to warp with heat. Particularly if you ran the standard pads, they weren't so bad, but you had a shit brake. But if you run a competition pad, it just basically cooked the discs, and the discs used to warp like hell. And you'd end up effectively then with a load of movement in the levers. You're practically back on the bar before you got any decent. You almost had to give a second pump to get the thing. It didn't actually fade at the end of the day, because you had a brake underneath you. I've never lost the brake, but that's about the closest I've got to losing a brake or brake fade. And literally, when I can remember the event where it really got at its worst, and we were doing a European Supersport 600 race at Donington Park, and every single time we went out, we came back in, new discs. We drained Yamaha's supply of discs, because there was obviously 3 bikes in the team at that point. So brake fade, it is a bit of an issue. But I think with modern stuff, I think it's better. You've got better fluid nowadays. They allow you to change to a decent disc. I mean, even on the S1000, I've upgraded from the standard discs to 5 mil thick discs. And that has made a noticeable difference in the lever. The lever's always sort of more secure, more solid, because even on the S1000 VM, the lever would start to go a little bit spongy, and then it would sort itself out back in the pits. And I think that was due to the discs slowly starting to try to warp out and straighten up. But with the 5 mil ones, they're pretty good. But for anyone who is having problems like that, it's about finding a cure or finding a solution on the problem. And often it can be a combination of the wrong brake pads with the wrong disc material, and then matching them up together, and then keeping everything clean so the pads parts so they're not dragging and overheating and that sort of thing. So there's always a solution to it. I mean, I've tried for years to get the zero restriction where the wheel just rotates round and round and round, and it's a fabulous brake. I've never really ever got there, to be honest. Pretty good, but I've never got the perfect brake. I'm sure somebody will grind my gears over that at some point.
So what's Adam's favourite track and why?
We've got a question. Adam, what is your favourite track and why?
It's a good one. There's so many to choose from. I really like Brands Hatch Indy, but it's just a bit too far to travel. But I do love Brands Hatch. I love Paddock Hill. Obviously, can't beat Croft and Cadwell. They're all really good.
Yeah.
I don't know, Cadwell, you can overdose on Cadwell. I think we've been that many times. Angles is a treat, but I thought I'd like it more the last time I went, but I've not been for a good 10 years, and I was just surprised that it just difficult to get fast round there. I love that corkscrew.
I was going to say, do you like the corkscrew, or do you like the international circuit, which is the long bit?
No, definitely coastal circuit with corkscrew in it. Do not like that daft hairpin and that long straight just for no need. But I like
right.
Donington as well. I love Craner Curves. Donington is got to be one of the favourites. Craner Curves is brilliant and awesome.
Yeah. Nothing quite like it, really. I mean, have you ever fell off? Have you ever joined the Craner Curve Club?
No, I don't think I have.
No.
Touch wood. I've had plenty of other crashes round Donington, but never on Craner. Touch wood.
Well, I was told once you are actually a member. It's just you haven't subscribed at that one particular point. You know, it's going to get you at some point.
Thank you.
I thought I got away with it at one point where it'd be mid 2000s in a super mono race, and I lost the front and went straight across the grass at like full speed, and it was so early in the corner in the left that when I did straighten it up, I only just cleared the arm core on the right hand side and joined where the bridge was then, and you went back under the bridge again, and you look at that grass and as you can imagine, you think it's pretty smooth, and it bloody ain't. But eventually it did get me 2012 Ducati 848 series.
I remember that one myself.
Yeah.
There weren't much left of that bike, was there?
No, when they got it back to the dealers, they basically pulled the motor out and stuck it in a new bike, and off we went again. It's not very good for bikes, that corner, no. But good one, that really. We've got a question from Des Mooney, talking S1000RR. Why is the front brake calipers set in a way that causes drag? Interesting, yeah, I would agree. Depends on when it comes to the S1000s. I mean, they've gone through periods of using Brembo calipers even with those 4 separate pads with to match each of the 4 pistons on the Gen 3 up to the Gen 3, and then they went to their own calipers, and then they've gone to a different caliper again now. And even I've got a Gen 5, and that's still drags a little bit, and I can never understand the why of it. I've tried everything to try and get around it. To be fair, I still run the calipers completely standard. Did you take the dust seals out your bikes, or do you run dust seals as well as piston seals?
Me, I take them out. I just take dust seals out. Yeah. Right.
Well, maybe that's something I should actually look into, but I've still got them in currently, and it does drag a little bit. I don't obsess about it at the end of the day, because I think with 212 horsepower or whatever it is, I think it can overcome a little bit of drag at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And what have you ridden a more modern 1000? What do you think of it? No,
I haven't. It's one bloke once said to me, if you can't afford to bin it and run it and put tyres on it, don't bother, and I believe that with you. So I've always kind of stuck with all the cheaper stuff because it's just easier to run and keep up with tyres and stuff. Last bike I probably rode, big bike in anger, might have been Derby Phoenix days. Test rode a new BM when the came out on road. It was brilliant, awesome bike, but they're no good for road for me personally. I don't agree in fast bikes on road. No, I only test rode it. Just somebody was giving me waving carrot as if to say, "Oh, I'm gonna get one and you can ride it and I'll buy it and all that." So I went and test rode it, and it fell through as it usually does with so-called sponsors. So just stuck with my Fireblades back then. Had some R1s obviously, like what you've had, like Frank and stuff, 5VYs and 48s, and that Big Bang version, which were terrible. Didn't like that one. But I just not bothered with thousands as such.
Talking of Frank, by the way, I'm just about to have my arm twisted into letting him go. So if anybody is interested in a 5VY, Frank, it's got some bits on it, suspension, motor's been done, not tuned but blueprinted, so it's pretty good. It's a good bike. Well, you've seen, Frank, and that's up for grabs anyway. So if somebody wants to make me an offer, I can't refuse.
The new pre.
Jennifer said there's a new class. I think it's CRMC or BEMSI.
No limits.
No limits, which is basically for the older stuff. I think it's pre 2006. 7. Well, it's the same thing. So yeah, Frank's would, I think, be a pretty good bike for that, really. Because what was your blade? That was a 2003, 4, wasn't it? Something like that.
No, I think it was newer than that. I think it was about 2010. I think, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that one with stubby exhaust on right hand side, wasn't it?
Right.
But yeah, it couldn't keep up with Frank. It couldn't keep up with Frank.
I don't know.
But to be fair, them R1s I always had. I mean, I got rid of my 5VY and moved on to that newer one, and I regretted it straight away because it's for just such a really nice, easy bike to ride. Them 5VYs.
Yeah, I mean, I must say, I've not rode Frank much over the last few years, but
excuse me, you rode him after the hair strike.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, I was on a borrowed bike at Donington, and a hare jumped out and smashed all the fairing off. And I got coaching clients the following week, so I had to drag Frank out of retirement. And it surprised me how pleasant it was to ride. I mean, it's obviously an analog, what I call an analog bike. There's no traction control or rider aids apart from the quick shift. But it was just really nice to ride and get back on again. I'm still loathed about selling him, but he's just got to go, really, at the end of the day.
There's no gritting work. Yeah,
there's no gritting work. Global warming, what's all that about? Bloody hell.
Yeah, it's been mild, hasn't it? Very mild.
Now, your CBR, you were telling us briefly last time, you'd got Mike Hose to do the motor, or he's on with it.
Yeah, Mike's going to do it for me. More through Pete, really. Pete's pushed me into him doing it. I don't know Mike particularly that well. I've met him at CRMC last year. He seems a knowledgeable bloke, and his results prove he's definitely a good rider.
He's a good egg.
So yeah, he's offered to tune engine for me, and then let me take bike back hopefully and get it dynoed up there as his centre, and should get it all up and running and spot on hopefully, a bit more power. Try and catch Danny Imberg then next year.
Or is he one of the men out there, Danny?
Yeah, he's quick on that bike. It is. He's definitely one at quickest out there at minute on CBR. So take some catching.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised you haven't got a CB 500 because you know I've been doing creating Barry, and I'm getting he's not far off now, to be fair. And I thought that might be an option, but I was really hoping that the Classic Club were going to break ranks really and run a CB 500 class. But I don't know. I don't think they will do. Bit of a shame really, because of course, as you know, the Classic Club don't allow tyre warmers, and I think a lot of people would shy away from, like the normal CB 500 crowd might shy away from not running tyre warmers. I don't know. That'd be an interesting poll actually to see whether they would or not. Plus, what class? Sorry, Zoe.
Don't put ideas into his head. We don't need any more bikes.
No, I couldn't do CB 500. I can't get my hands on handlebars properly. I'd struggle with straight bars.
Well, we'll get some bent ones made then.
That's why it needs to be more like a cafe racer naked style one, then. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that'd work. So, have we got any more questions, Jennifer?
Aren't you going to have a problem with the straight bars, and you're going to just think about changing them a bit on the CB 500?
Yeah. Well, yeah, straight bars. I rode Pepsi, he was called, which was the higher bike. I did the CB 500 race on at Donington a year or so ago, and that had virtually flat bars with a slight bit of a kickback, and I didn't really get on with them because I don't know about. Well, you've obviously got a wrist and arm injury, but my wrists over the years have broken up quite a bit of times, and they haven't got a lot of movement side to side. So I struggle sometimes on particularly wide bars, is trying to get my hand in the right place on the bar to kind of lean about, and I think it restricts the movement on the bike. So I've decided to try, first of all, the original standard is original bars. I mean, they're a little bit tall, which I'm disappointed with, but they're quite narrow, so you can lean off a bit more, because I think I've always said what can restrict you hanging off is the fact that if you've got wide bars, your left hand or right hand, whichever is the straight arm, is pulled back onto the bike because of how far out it is. So I can hear what you're saying about the straight bar thing, but I don't quite know which way to go with it. One of the reasons that a lot of the guys run the straight bars is to try and get weight over the front wheel. Because on the CBs, that's the one thing I noticed about them is you need to load the front end up. And I think maybe I put a tall seat on that'll try and tip me forward a bit. And maybe if I do run flat bars, and just maybe run narrow flat bars or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see what that goes with.
Okay, so what's Adam's best race that he never won?
All right. What was the best race that you've never won?
Best race that I've never won. I don't know where to start, really. I've lost quite a few, but not best race I've never won.
There's been one that sticks in your head, I dare say. But being a tremendous battle, or you just come across the line and thought, "Damn shit bollocks," but you really enjoyed it. There's got to be one of them, aren't there?
There's been that many. I've had quite a few this year. Sorry. I've raced some good races this year with Roxburgh, to be fair. Mark, another lad who's been racing in CBR class, and I'm just trying to think. One at Beston's, but when we were racing at Alton Park, and it started spitting. I was leading it by miles.
It's spitting.
And it started spitting, and I'm like, oh no. So I just kept on going, and it just kept getting heavier and heavier. And I thought, they'll red flag it. And they didn't. And I'm thinking, oh, never. And I was like miles in front of me, and 2 or 3 lads come past me. And then I remember going around the corner, and this other lad, he'd come off on this Ducati, I believe it was. And I was just sliding all over the bike, and I'm thinking, why are they not red flagging it? And it was just a terrible, terrible thing. But that's just one of them things. I remember that one. That was very gutted over that one. Yeah, Mark won it, Roxburgh. He won it quite easily, wet, and I was like, wow, rode wheels off it. Super courses in it, well, wet through.
No,
so,
what'll have happened there is they drop out of temperature, and then the grip goes, and you're knackered. It's hard to say, but you've just got to keep going at the normal pace. You can't slow down, because if you do, you lose temperature.
Yeah,
I know at some point you have to.
It was early on as well in weekend. I think it were early Saturday when it first races, and I was just like, oh, if I've been it now, that's my weekend done with. And I thought it's just not worth it. So yeah, definitely sketchy. But that's another reason with Classic Club, innit? The no tyre warmers does hold you back a bit.
Yeah, but in that case, it wouldn't have actually made much difference, would it?
No.
Yeah, it's a bit awkward, really. What was I going to lie about then? We've just got a question here now from Nick Jones. Hi, Mike. Looking forward to riding a few new tracks next year. Been riding a Trick 1098 Ducati, that I'm assuming that is. Last 10 years. Just got a Gen 4 with all the bits necessary. Flash suspension, blah, blah, blah. What's a different riding experience can I expect? What would you have thought, Adam? Big Twin versus Big 4?
I don't know. I really don't know what to suggest.
Well, Nick, I think, Nick, the biggest thing you'll notice is it's a big jump in generation of bike more than anything else. I'm assuming that your BM, if it's a Gen 4, it'll have all the rider aids, and I hope that you use them, because the BM's a great bike. I mean, all the modern bikes with the rider aids are quite effective if you use them and find a setting for them. But I think the biggest thing you'll miss from the Ducati is that not needing to change gear so much, and having to sort of let the revs drop out of it and then just like torque it out the corner. I raced in 2010, something like that. I had a couple of races on a 1198, which is a similar kind of bike. And I couldn't believe how monstrously torquey it was. And I was trying to sort of maximize the revs and kind of ride it more like a 4. And it wasn't the way to do it. It is to use the wave of torque, I found was the best solution. And the BM, even though it's got a really good mid-range package, I think that's possibly something that you will miss more than anything else, is that sort of on some circuits, for instance, Oulton Park, you'll only change gear a couple of times on the Ducati, where on the BM you'll be using more gears. So maybe gearing is going to be a thing that you're going to have to sort of work out more than anything else. Gregory Flynn has just popped in here. The BMW much easier to ride, to go fast on. Possibly, Greg, you're possibly right there. The BM, it's 10 years or more on. It's generationally quite a long way from the 1098. You know, if you compare the 1098 to the 1004s of its time, it was probably as good or better. But I think the modern stuff with all the rider aids is just pulling it away. So, yeah, the one thing I would suggest is, as I said to you, find some really good settings for the bike and explore as much as you can the rider aids and make the best of them. That's something that maybe, Adam, you haven't really experienced that much. I think that the Big Bang R1 would be probably the last thing you rode with more modern electronics on.
Yeah, it's not something I've got any experience with really, with electronic side of stuff. It's something that doesn't interest me. I've seen people with these BMs and having problems with when they fell off, and you know, trying to get throttles to even work again because they're all fly-by-wire and stuff. It's not, it doesn't interest me. But going back to like talkiness, like that VFR compared to my CBR, it's completely different riding style. It's a lot talkier, and like you say, your gearing's completely different. And you've just got a ride bike completely different. It's like you say, you're not screaming it everywhere. You just let it motored at work, and I enjoy that kind of riding. I do enjoy riding VFR for that reason. Whereas on FZ600 little one, like you said before, you're absolutely screaming it everywhere, and it's just like
flat out,
flat chat everywhere. But it's good.
Yeah.
But but VFR, it's a big heavy lump. But it's like you see, you've got that torque. It's nice. So you might enjoy it. You might like it.
Here's a question for you. Do you? What's your thoughts on riding smaller bikes to improving your riding technique? You know, kind of to make your ride harder, as opposed to rely on the bike.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's one of the biggest mistakes everybody makes, isn't it? As a novice, I've done it myself. You know, we bought. You know, back in the day when me and Lee Wilson, we started riding bikes, and I always remember we were on road together riding. I'd got a Fireblade, he'd got a Jigsaw. And come on, let's go track daying. Yeah, we can do it. We're fast on roads, we thought, and we went track daying, and we were absolutely terrible. we had hoodies off at topper as levers, looking cool, but we didn't have a clue what we were doing.
Yeah.
But it was just when I finally realised and went back slower and went back to older stuff, you start then trying to get the corner speed up and brake later and get on gas early, and everything then is about squeezing little bits out of your bike and instead of just like relying on that, get it in a straight line, whack it open and go for it.
Yeah.
No, I definitely prefer older, smaller stuff.
Yeah, I agree totally. I've coached a few people who've stepped up from smaller bikes onto thousands, from 600s for argument's sake, and 750s, and they've gone slower because they tend to want to rely on the punch of the bike, so they kind of wobble around the corners and then blast it down the straights. Because you're going that much quicker, you tend to start braking that much earlier, and it all becomes a bit of a firefighting, really. Well, as you say, on the smaller stuff, you're refining your riding because you're trying to squeeze all those tiny little bits out of the bike, because that's the bits which pulls you back to places, doesn't it? But right, we've got another question here. Des Mooney, rider aids, Blipper or not blip? I love my Blipper on my R1. Yeah, you won't have used a Blipper, will you, Adam?
No, but is it not just, is that for going down box, yeah?
Down box, yeah. Yeah, Blippers, I'm a huge fan of them. What's interesting, and it cropped up when I've started to get into data, which is really, really good. And what I noticed on the Blipper changing down was on the BM, I don't use the rear brake at all. Not on almost under any circumstances, apart from I'm turning across the grass heading for Aramco, and I might think about it then. But most of the time, don't use the rear brake. And I noticed on the data trace that there was little blips of back brake, and I couldn't quite understand why it was even showing. I thought it was like a glitch or something. And it wasn't until I realised, because I've got the BM set in still with the ABS mode, but it's in the very lowest, kind of like almost a track race setting, that when you obviously blip you change down, the motor blips and you get a spike in the engine RPM. And of course, because you've not disengaged the clutch, you've not pulled the clutch in, the wheel picks up speed at the same time. And then, even though it's only for like a tenth of a second or less, you get a blip of wheel speed. And if you're trying to slow down, that is counterproductive. So what it did is I call the ECU Marvin, because it's a huge computer, really. And what the ECU was doing was it would actually press the rear brake to slow the back wheel down back to where it was. So, and because these blips in where the brake was exactly where I was changing down. So it was the ECU, the rider aid, was pulling the back wheel speed back down to where it thought I should kind of have it, or it assumed where I wanted it to be. So definitely the Blipper for me it's a life-changing event, really. And obviously I can ride a bike without a Blipper, because I can manually blip a bike as well. And on almost everything I've ever ridden, I've blipped the throttle. And in fact, when I first got the BMs, on the edge up to the Gen 3 BMs, if you blip the throttle, or if you open the throttle at all, it switched the Blipper off, so the Blipper doesn't work. The more modern stuff, it will override what the throttle is doing. But yes, I do use the Blipper, and I would never go back. I mean, it's an absolute godsend, it really is.
Okay, I'm a bit bored now.
Oh, sorry, Jennifer's bored.
I'd like you to ask Adam what was the Sweetest Championship he won.
Yes. Did you hear that? What was the Sweetest Championship you think you've ever won?
Sweetest Championship.
Because you've won a few.
Yeah, maybe Thundersport were a good one. Yeah, because
Right.
they despised me that much in that club. But yeah, I really enjoyed Thundersport. That was same again, though. It was, I was doing.
What bike was that on?
Same again. I got a CBRs in Street Fighter class, and then I got Yamaha R6 pre-injection in Super Sport class. And
Right.
them R6s were absolutely brilliant. They're still a brilliant bike to this day, I think. No rider aids or anything like that, but yeah, it was.
Was that the first early one, the carb ones?
Yeah, first early one,
Yeah.
5EB, I believe it was.
Right.
Yeah, very good. I enjoyed winning them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I've never ridden one of them early R6s, but I believe everyone who has had them have said they're great. I mean, they're getting a bit long in the tooth now and a little bit unreliable, sort of thing, because of course they've had the shit tuned out of them.
Yeah.
But I've heard they are really good.
Yeah.
So it was the club which was the do you think your rivalry with the club, or the back chat you were getting from them, or was it just the bikes? Or
it was just the riders in the club in general were very cliquey, let's say. I didn't tend to get on that well with them. Bit of rivalry from some other riders who from Derby Phoenix days either. But yeah, it was still a good championship. Enjoyed it. Put a lot of graft and effort into it to win that one. That was just before I went to Isle of Man. In fact, I said to myself, if I have loads of crashes this year, there's no way I'm setting foot on Isle of Man. But I had one silly off where I'd run a too big a tyre on rear at Steely. I'd moved up to a 180 and I just lost it at Airpin at Cadwell. Just ran it off edge at tyre, basically. It just mushroomed on rim a little bit. So it was something, and now, and I forgive myself for that one. I says, right, I'll still go. Yeah. And then year after we went to Isle of Man, and it was brilliant. Isle of Man. That is something else, riding across around that circuit.
Yeah. I didn't. Did you compete there then?
Yeah, I did Manx in 2014, I believe it was. Yeah.
Bloody
Yeah.
hell, I've
You
forgotten
did
all about
see him
that.
in the paddock.
Yeah. I'd
Yeah.
forgotten all about it, you know.
Yeah, we
It's
did.
me you're talking to now.
They were
Yeah, we
parked
did.
up near the back of the police station.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
We
No,
did Isle Man, that were good. And
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, did a bit of Scarborough, Oliver's Mountain, and Cookstown were good. I enjoyed that one. That were an eye opener when you rock up to Cookstown and they put you down in paddock at bottom and it's all just rubble and stuff. You're like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
But it were good, really good. They took you
Yeah.
out in a little bus and took you around saying, you know, you want to be aiming for this telegraph pole, make sure it's on left hand side of you as you come off at Browett. It'll give you all instructions and stuff to read with little notes on and stuff. Really, really helped you. Wanted you to go out and be safe and enjoy it, which you find that with road riding lads. They're always really good at helping you, whereas when you go short circuit, a lot of them don't want to help you, they just want to beat you.
Closed book, isn't it?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Classic Club's good.
Classic Club's good. I mean, that's got to be the best club we've been to. Like last year were awesome. They really took us in really well, and you know, looked after us. And even people in paddock we were racing against were really good. There were no real nastiness. If somebody lost here, they'd come up and say good ride. And same other way, you know, nobody minds losing a race to somebody who's better than them. If you
No,
lose,
that's
you
true.
learn off them, don't you? You keep them as far as you can and think. That's where I'm losing out, where he's gaining and stuff. But yeah, it was good.
Yeah, but the Irish, as a rule, I think, biking to them is like a national sport, total passion driven, and the crowd and that. Just every time I've ever gone to Ireland to race, it's humbling, really, how honest they are and how they just love the racing. Quick question here from Neil Chandri. Where my glasses aren't working. If you could put your leg over one bike in the world and a track, what would you ride it on? So I'm assuming that's for me. I'll give it a go. Oh, Adam, yeah, go on. You answer that one first. If you could put your leg over one bike in the world, what track would you ride it on?
Well,
what would you like to have a go at?
I'd love to have a go on some kind of old two-stroke, really. Obviously, I'd have to start off small because it's something I ain't had a lot of experience in, and then obviously work my way up. But I'd love to do some Spanish tracks, I think. Yeah, definitely. Get abroad and do some of these tracks that everybody goes on about. I've never been.
Well, maybe what we should actually do is take a short period out, save up some, break that piggy bank open.
Let's go.
Yeah, and then let's have a couple of weeks abroad and get a couple of tracks in. Yeah, from my perspective, I've raced at a lot of tracks, but it would be abroad. I mean, some of the monster tracks, your Mugellos, Barcelona's, tracks like that, are like cathedral type circuits, if you know what I mean, just mega tracks. But there's some smaller tracks, and I keep trying to bang this home to people. There's so many hidden gems all over the place, like Most in the Czech Republic, Rijeka, Vallelunga in Italy. Great tracks to ride, but which get no press at all. But I always wanted to ride Suzuka, and I have done it in 2002. And it is something else, because of course you've got to take on board the culture of the country as well, and the Japanese have a fantastic culture. It's different more than anything else. It's not weird. That's wrong of me to say that. Bike, I'm a bit like you. The modern stuff is great, and it kind of blows wind up your skirt, sort of thing. And a V4R, Ducati, or your fancy BMs or whatever, fantastic bits of kit. But there's somehow the older type stuff. One of my favourite bikes of all time is Ducati 999R. Ducati, absolutely, the 998R. They were just such a great bike to ride. So it would be on probably something like that, something with character and
breakdown.
What do you mean breakdown? But no, it would be something like that. Gregory Flynn said trick V4R at Mugello. Yeah, you couldn't really go wrong with that, Greg. I mean, great bike, and for those who haven't been to Mugello, it really is an amazing track.
Tell the truth, Mike Edwards, after 2 sessions, you'd be wondering what was on the lunch menu.
Well, yes, I have to hold my hand up there. I built it up. I built it up so much, Mugello, in my mind before I went there, that I think I got really, really excited. For those people who ever, let's say you want to meet a superstar, somebody you've idolized, and then you finally meet them and you're slightly deflated. And literally towards the end of the first day, I thought, right, done it. And the second day, I only did like half a day, and the third day, just a few sessions. I'd had enough, but glad I've done it. And it is an amazing track. But I think for me, I built it up too much before going instead of just getting on with it and going there. But then you've got other tracks. Phillip Island is an amazing track. Turn 1 in particular. I mean, that really wakes you up going into there. And if anything, I guess I like tracks which are a little bit scary, because I mean you're more, as it were, your more modern tracks. I have things like tracks like Manicourt in France, kind of leave me a little bit cold, really. There's the first couple of corners are great, but after that you just like, ticking the boxes going round sort of thing, and you're getting back over the finish line so you can go through your favourite bit. And then you've got Spa, for Christ's sake. Who can't say they wouldn't go around Spa? I mean, these are some of those things, Adam, I think we should definitely get you out there on. Just really, just life-changing circuits. They really are. Jennifer's about to say something.
Does Adam think it's right to sanitize a track to make it safer, or should you adjust your riding to the track?
Good question. Do you think you should sanitize the track to make it safer, i.e. remove all the dangers, i.e. move the barriers back, move bankings back, shift everything away, like you end up riding in a desert sort of thing, or I'm not suggesting that, you should leave like a tree in the middle of the track, but do you think they should leave tracks alone sometimes and make riders ride with respect?
It's a funny situation, Matt. I mean, they've done it with Cadwell, haven't they? Through like all bends and that over years, they've spread it out and flattened it off and stuff. I just think that you ride to your skill level, and that's it, really. But I don't know. It's a funny situation. It's a funny question, really. It's like Scarborough, that they're trying to make it so safe now that they don't want anybody to go to Scarborough, basically, because there are all these crashes in the past. But it's just one of them things, isn't it? People love it. They love to get outside at danger, and I mean, we all love that danger. That's what it is. It's that thrill at being on edge.
My personal view on it is, to a point, obviously. The more you sanitize a track, the more you have, or you lose respect for the track, and you tend to ride faster but with less caution, because you sort of know you're going to be all right the majority of the time. I mean, a great tracking point is Silverstone. I don't think there's a corner at Silverstone unless you got hit by somebody that you'd actually hurt yourself, because it is sort of so safe. But in the same breath, a lot of people who go to Silverstone, and I'm not just labeling just Silverstone, I'm using Silverstone as an example, is it sort of they almost want a little bit of like going over places.
Jeopardy,
yes, as Jennifer said.
But you're still missing side. Sorry, you're still missing part, whereas bike can also hit you. So it doesn't matter how good you make track and how safe it is. How many times have bikes hit people and injured people and killed people in the past? Or even start line incidents and stuff like that. There's all these other incidents that can happen on bike. It's not just whether you're going to hit an armco or a stone wall or whatever. There's a lot of different things can get you. I know when I crashed at Anglesey, I could hear it bike and see it, and I'm thinking bike's going to hit me as I was sliding down track, and luckily it didn't. But I've seen it quite a few times. I've even seen it at Cadwell myself, whereas I've fell off, somebody's fell off, and then I've followed him into the corner, I've slipped and fell off, And then another bike at Marshalls had been picking up. I'd shout at Marshalls and said, shift, jump, move, quick, because
Yeah.
somebody else was falling off and going straight into them. So
Yeah.
it's easily done. You know, that were back in Auto 66 days, that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the last time I rode at the Northwest, there was no chicanes there. Like at, you come out of the Magic Roundabout and now you rush up towards Mathers Cross, and there's a chicane in there. And I can totally understand why they put it in, because Mathers Cross was one of the corners where if you did fall off, it was not a good day at the office. But for me, it was one of those corners where you didn't dive underneath somebody. You sort of, I mean, tactically, it wasn't a great thing to do anyway, because there was a huge straight after that. But generally speaking, I think, if you can guarantee it making it 100% safe, do it. But you can never do that. So, I think that, as long as it's within reason, they should kind of leave a lot of tracks alone. I mean, Cadwell, as you say, they've moved all that stuff away from you going through Hall Bends and that, but you arrive at the hairpin and you've like 10 feet before the arm cut. But to be fair, you're down to sort of 30, 40 mile an hour then anyway. So, it's a tricky one.
Took tree out at Coppice, haven't they? That tree were always at Cadwell, that big tree at Coppice. They've moved barriers right back at bottom of Coppice. They've opened it up a lot for safety reasons, haven't they?
Yeah. Yeah, I think ultimately, you can hurt, as you said, you can hurt yourself anywhere, and it's often the bike will get you anyway, that sort of scenario. So, Gregory Flynn here has come up with one, and hello, Greg. I hope you're all right, by the way, fella.
He's polishing his many bikes.
Is he? Yeah, Greg, we're going to have to get you out somewhere.
Too many bikes.
He's got far too many bikes, which I'm not sat on. It says, do not sanitize tracks too much. Example, Paul Ricard, massive runoff. Yeah, I mean, Paul Ricard is the biggest case in point. The runoff, almost every corner bar one at Paul Ricard, you've got like probably 50 meters or more of runoff of just tarmac, because it's a total F1 circuit. I think there are gravel traps set there, but for most of the ones that are corners I can picture, it's just like a lake of tarmac. And in fact, if you go on Google Maps and hover over the circuit, you'll actually see that the track is a thin ribbon around this massive amount of beautifully sculpted painted lines. And it's very confusing as well, to be honest. But that's another story. Right, Jennifer?
Well, first of all, I'm being signalled a day at an hour, because nobody wants to listen to this.
Has it been an hour already?
It's been an hour already.
Oh, I'm sorry, people.
But if people are really interested in you and Adam chatting, we can look at doing it again perhaps next weekend.
Okay.
If you get enough questions.
Yeah, but we'll give that a go.
The biggest question is, now that Adam is teammates with Pete Murray,
right,
and Mike Hose is doing his engine, do you need to give him any Scouse language tips?
Yeah. How do you get on with Pete and Mike? Because there's a bit of a language barrier there.
They're good. They're both. Yeah, they're both really good. We're both at Classic Do when we've just been to presentation, and they're a good laugh pair of them. And to be fair, you could understand them. They're all right.
Just ask him to speak a little bit slower.
Yeah, he's coming over actually. He said, "Oh, we'll have a night out together over Christmas," but he couldn't get because he's always having to work. So he's coming over in a couple of weeks, isn't it? Not weekend after, and he says, "I'll pick your bike up, your engine up for you, and take it back, save you travelling over to Liverpool." So I said, "That's very kind of you."
That's decent of him, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So,
well, thank you very much, Adam, for coming on. For everyone who is listening and has enjoyed it. Is where the Americans say subscribe or some shit like that. But no, please pop us a few questions on that you'd like us to have a little head scratch round, and we'll maybe do it next weekend if you're up for it, Adam.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Well, happy Christmas, everybody. I know it's happened, and have a good New Year, because we won't see you before then. And enjoy yourself. Have you got any plans over the New Year, Adam?
No plans. No plans. Quiet for us.
Old and boring.
Boring.
It's never boring if Zoe's about.
Yeah,
Trust me, it is. I'm in bed till 7 o'clock now. I'm like,
yeah, I should have been in bed earlier. She's been keeping
All
her up
right.
at 9 o'clock.
I'm sorry about that, my love. Okay, well, thanks for everybody, and we'll catch up another time. See you soon, people.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, same to you. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.